Hey everybody, today Rahdo runs through his top 10 games of 2017. Although not quite, because what are we? It's December 24th, it's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and at this point I have played and filmed around 200 games or so this year. And yet in spite of that, there's still probably a couple dozen games from 2017 that I have yet to check out that might be able to punch their way onto this list. So at this point, this is really a preliminary list, and what you need to do is, after enjoying this and having a lovely festive holiday season, wait until April of 2018, because then I will be uploading an update to this. After that, at that point, I will have played all the other games of note, and we'll see if this list changes at all. But for now, this is going to have to do because, hey, the year's almost up, and the top 10 laws demand a best of at the end of the year, right? So, before we get going, I should, of course, point out this is a very subjective list because this is not trying to say these are the definitive best games. Of course, these are just the games my wife, Jen, and I have enjoyed the most, and of course, that means we have certain subjective preferences. We don't like a lot of conflict in games. We don't like abstract games. We generally don't play party games. If it doesn't support 2 players, it's a non-starter for us. So if your personal favorite game or games of the year don't make this list, well, maybe that's why, or maybe I just haven't played it yet, or heck, maybe you and I just agree and we can agree to disagree on that topic. But without further ado, let's actually start counting down with number 10, Pulsar 2849, which I have to say I am so happy to see this on the list for 2 reasons. One, it's from designer Vladimir Suchy. And I am a super Suchy fanboy. Ever since I played Shipyard so many years ago, I've loved this guy. And then he came out with Last Will. He's done a few other things. Man, I really want to play that Klondike game of his someday, although it seems very hard to get. But this year, after a noticeable absence, I guess where he was actually living his real life and doing his real job, he has returned. CG Games has brought us his Pulsar 2849, which is set in outer space. It's one of those Euro 3X style games where you're exploring, expanding, and exploiting, but no extermination. That's the way we like it. And last year, there were a couple of games I was really excited to give a go with this 3X approach. Solarius missions and Kepler 3842. And I was so shocked to discover that both of those games were kind of a miss for me and Jen because we discovered we don't like traveling through the cold, barren reaches of space. No matter how good the Euro mechanisms are, it's just something that doesn't work for us. So, while I was excited about Suchy's latest foray, and hey, it's a dice drafting game as well. I love dice drafting. It's my favorite mechanism of all time. I was worried that this one, like the previous 3X games, wasn't really going to be a hit for us. But it was. This is a phenomenal game. I'm sure I'll be doing a run-through for it soon. But Jen and I have absolutely adored this thing, particularly because, amazingly, this is, like I said, dice drafting, and it's a roll-to-move game. That's how we move around the solar system here, the galaxy, trying to explore new systems and exploit pulsars for energy and work our way up technology trees. And this game has such an amazing amount of replay value because there's so many setup variables. Everybody has their own special tech tree. There's like a communal tech tree. There are objectives that are public that everybody chases for. The board itself is randomized. Oh man, it's amazing. And on top of that, it's a dice drafting game. Suchy is back, baby! And he knocked it out of the park with my number 10, Pulsar 2849. Now, let's go on to number 9, Castles of Burgundy, the dice game, which I'll be honest, it's kind of crazy this even makes the list. This is such a simple, light little trifle of a game. This is literally just round after round, rolling some dice, picking a combo, and then writing on a piece of paper saying what you want to do. And yet, in spite of that, this game is so compelling. Jen and I liken it to bubble wrap. You know how once you get bubble wrap and you just start popping, pop, 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 and you just can't stop? That's what playing this game is like. You just want to keep rolling and scoring land and rolling and scoring land. It has a feel of Burgundy, but it's really a different game. So fast, so smooth. It's absolutely phenomenal. A great travel game, super tiny footprint, can play with any number of players as long as you got pencils. Great, great stuff. Castles of Burgundy, the dice game, number 9. Then on to number 8, Pandemic Legacy Season 2. Now, this is kind of shocking. I would have expected this. If you'd asked me at the beginning of the year, how's this going to rank? I'd say, oh, it's probably going to be my number one, because 2 years ago, Pandemic Legacy Season 1 was my number one, and at the time, I ranted and raved about how it had given me the greatest gameplay experience of my life. So surely the sequel is going to be bigger, better, awesome, right? Well, not quite. It's really interesting. I mean, obviously I enjoyed it. It made my top 10 of the year. But if you go watch my final thoughts of it, I talk without spoilers about, some of the issues we had with it. In a nutshell, the reason this didn't make number 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, because here it is at number 8. There's the two main things. One, as a two-player game, it's a little bit too easy. And which is odd, because I know a lot of people out there have said the game is way, way, way too punishingly hard, and it's demoralizing and destroying them. But Jen and I, we found it was a cakewalk. And I think that's because it's interesting. More so than unlike any pandemic variant that's ever come out before, Legacy Season 2 introduces exploration in a big, bad way. You really have a whole bunch of discoveries to make as you explore the world while trying to save it in sort of pandemic-style gameplay, although they made a few really significant changes to the core pandemic formula. And it's interesting, I think, if you, and the game gives you the freedom to explore in any direction you want. So, like me and Jen, I think if you explore in an ideal way, you'll find stuff at the right time to keep the difficulty level down and manageable. Whereas if you explore maybe in a different direction, you might not find stuff that's absolutely crucial until it's too late. Heck, I've heard some people who get to the end of the game and they haven't actually found absolutely essential things because they didn't explore enough. And so I think that's maybe where people, they spend too much time trying to play typical pandemic. Okay, we just gotta fight the disease. We gotta keep the world safe. Manage our cubes, the normal pandemic stuff, and they don't focus enough on the exploration. Because that's what I loved about Season 2 is this great, wonderful science exploration. Every game we played, we were finding new, interesting things that radically changed the pandemic formula. But we found them in such a way that in a two-player experience, it made it a little bit too easy. We loved it anyway, but we loved it as much for its narrative exposition and its wonderful sets of exploration. The gameplay is good. Some of the core elements of Pandemic, I'm not really keen on how they changed it, but still, at its heart, it is still Pandemic, so it's still a great game. Loved it, but it just didn't quite rank as high. So here we are, sitting at, let's see, what is this, number 8? Yeah, Pandemic Legacy. Now, I'm trying to show a little bit, and when I do top 10s from now on, I'm trying to actually show a little bit of the game. And for this, I think, so were we at number 8 or were we at number 7? Man, you'd think I would have actually kept a list right here. You know where we are. But anyway, I'm about to show you what the board looks like. Some people don't want to see that. Be prepared to close your eyes. I'll say when to close your eyes. I'll let people look at the board. It's the standard board. It's basically the first thing you see when you open the box. It's even on the back of the box, so it's no real spoilers. But I need to show something. So, folks, if you don't want any spoilers, you don't even want to know what the board looks like, close your eyes now. And then for the rest of you folks, hey, that's what it looks like. When you first set up your very, very first game, this is the state of the game. And I think this gives you an idea of how there's so much to explore. That's what's most exciting about this. That's the core thing it adds. It's neat, neat, neat. But there were a couple of problems. If you want to know more, you can watch my final thoughts, which are totally spoiler-free, by the way. But anyway, let's now move on to the next game. Folks, you can open your eyes and look at I think this is number 7. Or no, you're number 6. I should just have a piece of paper writing it down. But anyway, let's talk now about Charterstone, which is another Legacy game that came out this year. And oh my gosh, this is amazing. I absolutely love this. Jen and I love this. We've already played through the campaign once. And the interesting thing is, after you're done, the publisher has a recharge kit. You can buy a recharge kit, flip the board over because it's two-sided, and start playing all the way through again. So you can actually get 2 full playthroughs of one game. And what a game it is. This is a worker placement game where players are competing to be the best at contributing to the wealth and prosperity of our little village. And over the course of many, many games, we build the village up by putting stickers on the board that changes the village. And it evolves and it grows and new things get added all the time. It's a good, rock-solid worker placement game, but the legacy element of seeing this world change and evolve based on our choices over the course of the game is so wonderful, so compelling, so rich. And it's a rock solid fun game. Probably the most interesting thing from a worker placement point of view, two things. It does worker bumping, which I absolutely love, and it has this amazing sense of velocity. No matter how many players are playing this game, you're going to get it done in pretty much an hour every time you play. And so it just moves fast, it's fun, the world is constantly growing and evolving. And Jen and I, we finished this whole game, we've only seen half of all the stuff that's in there, which is why we're playing all the way through it again with the recharge pack. We've enjoyed it as a 2-player game, we're enjoying it now as a 4-player game. Absolutely phenomenal. They knocked out of the park a wonderful, wonderful legacy worker placement game, Charterstone. And then let's move on to, I think we're at number 6 now? I think we're at number 6. Ryan Laukait's Near and Far. Ryan Laukait is an immensely talented designer, artist, publisher, writer, graphic designer. He does everything. He's a true one-man shop. Although to be fair, he does actually have help. But I mean, he does the lion's share of all this work. And game after game, he really makes wonderful, interesting, beautiful, evocative, great Euro-style gameplay systems. But Near and Far, it's his masterpiece. I mean, this is his Michelangelo, if he is some kind of big, Renaissance man who can do it all. This is his Mona Lisa. It is so wonderful. This is a game of exploration. There's two halves to it. There's a worker placement side where you're in the main town, gathering resources, building up a brave party of explorers with different skills and abilities. And so you do a worker placement stuff, and then whenever you want, you leave town and travel all around a map of the world. And the game actually comes with a book full of maps. So every time you can play on a different map with different secrets to uncover. It's a race. It's like Charterstone. Very, very fast, high velocity game. You don't have time to dilly-dally as you're making all these tough, tense decisions. And the game comes with a wonderful book of stories as well. That as you're traveling around the world, certain events will happen to one of your competitors will actually take the book, will read some chapters to you, some story text, and you'll have to make a decision based on who you are, what you're trying to achieve, and there will be in-game ramifications for that. Another beautiful thing about this is a campaign game. You can just play it as a standalone, hey, just to pick up and play. But you can play through a campaign that it takes you through the entire world, through the entire book of maps and reveals all the secrets of this world. Or instead, you can play through a campaign that reveals all the secrets of you as a playable character, your mysterious backstory, or maybe you're a funny clown, or you're on a missions for vengeance or something like that. There's so many ways to play and replay this game, and it's gorgeous, it's beautiful, it's evocative. The writing is wonderful. The components are great. The art, as always, is amazing. Like I said, this is Ryan Laukait's magnum opus, at least until the expansion for it comes out. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. Next year. But at number 6, if I'm counting correctly, if I haven't lost track, Ryan Laukait's Near and Far. Then we move on to number 5, This War of Mine, which... if you described this game to me 3 years ago and said, you know what, you're going to make this your number 5 in 2017, I would have laughed in your face. I would have said, you don't know me, man. And I would have been wrong, because This War of Mine is an amazing accomplishment. I've already done a few videos for it, so you can go back and watch and hear what I have to say. Here's the thing. This is a game set in a modern Eastern European Civil War-torn city. We are just regular civilians trying to survive, trying to make it to the ceasefire. We have found an old abandoned house, and we're trying to reclaim it, clear away rubble, find resources, build the tools we need to survive. And every day, that's what we do with a worker placement game. And then every night, some of our characters brave the city and try to scrounge up resources, find food, have encounters, make alliances, all kinds of stuff. Again, driven by a gigantic book of stories. But unlike Near and Far, which are beautiful, fun, high adventure stories, this is grim, this is dark, this is somber, this is mature, this is heavy, heavy content. Truly terrible man's inhumanity to man type stuff can happen. I didn't think Jen would even remotely play this game because it can be very dark. But what she found so compelling is the survival aspect of it. That every decision you make is trying to, because Jen loves survivalist shows. She's really, really intrigued by that. She wasn't crazy about the setting, but she was willing to put up with it because the survival nature of this game is so rock solid. And and then on top of that, I was surprised I like this game because it features so much roll to resolve, so much dice rolling, which is not normally a thing. But here it feels right. It feels appropriate, that cruel fate should decide your the outcome of what you attempt to do, as much as the best laid plans of mice and men will get destroyed in a war zone, and that's what this game does to you. This is a beautiful game. It is an important game. This is a game as art. It enlightens it by letting you walk a mile in the shoes of somebody else and have an experience you never would, and that's why it's my number 5. This war of mine. It's absolutely beautiful. It's something that everybody should experience at some point, I think. But anyway, let's move on to happier times. Number 4, Dragonfire. Now, this is an interesting one because this is a remake of, or not a remake, this is a sequel to Shadowrun Crossfire, which the year it came out, it was my number 1 game of the year. It's my number 3 game of all time right now. So you think, hey, taking Shadowrun Crossfire and putting it into the Dungeons & Dragons universe, which is the only complaint I ever had about Shadowrun, that I wished it was a high fantasy setting, you think, this is perfect. So why isn't it my number 1? Well, as it happens, it's a brilliant game because, of course, the Crossfire cooperative deck-building adventure game system is great. Jen, I absolutely love it, and we are very much enjoying Dragonfire. It made my top 10, but the problem is it's so much easier. Don't get me wrong, it's a tough, challenging cooperative game, but compared to Shadowrun Crossfire, it really treats you with kids' gloves, both in terms of how hard it hits you with the bad guys and all that, and also in terms with how much it rewards you. I mean, this game just drowns you in rewards, whereas Shadowrun Crossfire really makes you work for it. I guess really the main reason this doesn't rank as high, even though I love the setting more and I love the campaign stuff, this game comes with so much in the box. It's absolutely phenomenal. The reason it doesn't rank higher for me, it didn't make it into the top tier, is because Shadowrun Crossfire, one of the things I really love about it is the freedom you have to play the way you want to, which I think is reflective of the Shadowrun role-playing game that the card game is based on, where players can make all kinds of weird, kooky, crazy, mishmash characters. Dungeons & Dragons has always been more regimented, more, look, if you're a cleric, this is the way you work. If you're a rogue, this is the way you work. If you're a fighter, if you're a wizard, if you're a ranger, whatever, say hi to, I just got some mail there. All righty. I have no idea what that even is. We'll worry about that later. But, should have shut down my notifications before I started filming. Anyway, sorry. So, because Dungeons & Dragons is more regimented, Dragonfire is more regimented too. And while Jen and I, we have played almost 10 games of this now, and I'm trying to play through all of the campaign and all of the expansion stuff before I actually do my run-through, which will be coming in early 2018. We find there's just not as much. I mean, the game plays a little bit more rote. I right now I am playing a cleric, and every game I play, I tend towards the same stuff. In Shadowrun Crossfire, every time I play, I get another weird, crazy combination of things. There's not as much interesting, crazy, off-the-wall combinatorial stuff because they're being true to Dungeons & Dragons, where, gosh darn it, a cleric works this way. These are the kinds of things he does. And so it's fun. We're definitely loving it, but we definitely love Shadowrun Crossfire more, and I think it's because of the source material, which is really, really interesting. I didn't really expect that. But anyway, still, great game, lots of fun, and for people who wanted to like Shadowrun Crossfire, but they thought it was just too hard, too crushing, too unforgiving, maybe this would be more up your alley. But anyway, that was Dungeons & Dragons Dragonfire. And now, let's move on to number 3. Oh my gosh. This game, folks, is so amazing. Jump Drive from designer Tom Lehman. This is basically a sequel to Tom Lehman's probably the most beloved modern designer card game on the market, Race for the Galaxy. This is Tom taking Race for the Galaxy, which is already a very smooth, streamlined game that plays very, very fast because players are racing to build up their galactic empire as fast as possible and win the game. You're doing the same thing in Jump Drive, but it takes Race for the Galaxy into hyperspeed. I think that's why of the name of the game and even the cover. This game goes so fast. You're still doing the same stuff. Building up your own little galactic empire. You'll see a lot of the same types of settings and cards as from Race, but the game takes place in half the time. This is a 15-minute game, 20 minutes tops. It plays so fast, is so smooth. It does away with all the crazy, Byzantine iconography and just puts text on the cards, which is very much appreciated. But This game just goes from 0 to 1,000 just like that. The velocity of this game, because this game is only going to last 4 or 5 rounds. You start out making no points, and by the next to the last round, you're making 20 points a turn. It's absolutely amazing. The sense of escalation in this game is absolutely amazing. Although at its heart, like Race, this is a game where you have a handful of cards. I want to play this, so I've got to discard other cards to play it. That's always at the heart of the game. A tough, meaty, just agonizing decision to make, but it plays so fast, is so smooth, is so fun, and creates such rich, interesting stories. Watch the run-through I did for it, and you'll see Jen and I ended up creating radically different the story of our empire is as interesting as the gameplay. I absolutely love it. That's why it's my number 3. Jump Drive. And then number 2, oh my gosh, this game, Santa Maria, amazing. Absolutely amazeballs. Totally blown away by it. What is it? This is an era of colonization, the new world. We're conquistadors. The game really doesn't delve deep into the dark history of this. Oh, and hey, I'm getting more emails. Really should have turned that off before I filmed. Alrighty, but let's see, what was I saying? Right, anyway, this is a game where you're trying to create a settlement in the new world by dice drafting and tile laying. And so everybody has their own little board, and they're putting tiles out, and all these tiles have different abilities they can do when they're activated. You activate them by drafting dice. If you draft a white die, you're going to activate every tile in a column that matches that die. If you draft a blue die, you're going to activate every tile in that row. And so this game is a crazy heavy, crunchy in the best possible way puzzle of trying to get all these different Tetris pieces put in so that when you grab a die, you will activate things in the ideal, most efficient way possible to get a bunch of resources so you can get more stuff and build even more things and score lots of points. Every time you play, there's a bunch of different objectives you go for, and I mean, the game has tons of different ways to score points, different things you can focus on, but at its heart, what really makes this thing is, again, the insanely beautiful mix of dice drafting, again, something I absolutely love, my favorite gameplay mechanism, and this Tetris-style piece, puzzle-ish tile laying game, and making those two things work together, struggling to get enough money and the resources to do what you need to do. It's absolutely phenomenal. My number 2 game of the year, Santa Maria. But now let's talk about number 1, folks. Shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody, Gloomhaven. At this point, I have played Gloomhaven longer than any game in my life, with the exception of some massively multiplayer online games. I probably played Asheron's Call and EverQuest and World of Warcraft longer. But Gloomhaven, I've done over 100 hours in this game. Easily, which is hard for me to do. In my job, where I'm constantly having to learn and play and film new games, I don't have time to go back and play the same game over and over again. I always got to be moving forward. Jen and I, my wife, we have made the time for Gloomhaven this year because it's so amazing. It's so wonderful. At its heart, this is a cooperative fantasy skirmish game where we're just dungeon delving, trying to take out all the bad guys and get the loot and level up and complete big epic stories. And we all have our own little personal stories we're trying to complete while completing the big epic story, and fighting lots of bad guys who all have their own decks of cards that give them all kinds of cool special powers. Kind of bog standard stuff when it boils right down to it. But what makes this game so special is the core gameplay of, I've got a hand of cards, a very small hand of cards. When I go into the dungeon, this is my life meter. When I lose all these cards, I'm dead. So I've got to get the most use out of them as possible. And every card I've got can be used for one of 4 actions. There's 2 actions on the top I can choose from and 2 actions on the bottom. When I play that card, every turn, I play 2 cards. One to use a top action, one to use a bottom action. Everybody has to plan in a given round what they're all going to play at the same time, and then everybody reveals at the same time. We're all working together, but will we coordinate well so that I can rush up and stun the thing so that it won't hurt you, and then you can pull away and do the big thing? Can we act before the bad guys hit us? And so we come up with all our plans. We decide what 2 cards we're going to play this round, but then the bad guys reveal their card. And suddenly, oh my God, I thought for sure they were just going to stand still and shoot at us. But instead, they're charging and they're dropping a trap. Oh my gosh, all our plans have changed. What can we do? How can we make lemonade out of this lemon? Well, you know what? I was planning on using these cards this way, but let's shift it up and use them this way. But the more I use my cards, the closer I'm getting to death. I can pull some of them back, but some of them get burned forever when I use big, cool, powerful nuke-style moves. The core gameplay of this game is so brilliant. The game comes with something like 100 or it's over 100 unique missions you can play through. Like I said, we've already done over 100, and we're maybe 2/3 of the way through the main campaign, and there's still so much stuff we haven't seen. And there's additional adventures that the designer publisher Isaac Childress has released for free, even after the game has come out. This is a truly evergreen. It even comes with a random dungeon generator if you want to have infinite replayability. And it's a cool, interesting fantasy story. There's a lot of really neat systems. I've only scratched the surface, but that core loop, these are the cards I've got left. I'm going to play 2 of them. I'm going to play this for this, this for this. What are you doing? Let's figure it out. Let's reveal. Now what do the bad guys do? That never gets old. That is always exciting, always tense. This game pushes you so hard, and it's so satisfying, so much fun. That's why it's my number 1, folks. And it's actually, at this point, my number 2 game of all time. And, or maybe my number 3. I keep shifting. Every time I play Shadow and Crossfire, it goes to my number 2. And then every time I play Gloomhaven, it goes to my number 2. So at the very least, it's tied for my number 2 best game of all time. And certainly the board game I played more than any other game in my entire life, Gloomhaven. And that is it, folks. 2017 all wrapped up. And thanks for watching. Like I said, check back in April. I will be revisiting this topic, and we'll see if anything's managed to punch its way in. Will Suchi hold on to the number 10 spot? I don't know, but we'll find out soon. And in the meantime, check back in a few days, folks, because I'll be doing the top 25 most anticipated games for 2018. It's already looking to be a very, very good year. And that's it, folks. Thanks for watching. I hope you have happy holidays, whichever ones you like, whether it's Christmas or Kwanzaa or any of our Hanukkah, all the rest of it. Everybody, have a very, very nice day. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye.